Hello and welcome to Allot on Air. During the next 10 minutes or so, we'll be meeting with industry experts to discuss the hottest trends in telecom, cybersecurity, and network intelligence.
Hello everyone, I'm Michael Schachter, Product Marketing Director for Network Intelligence Solutions at Allot. On November 23rd, I'll be hosting an Allot Smart webinar in which we will drill down into the topic of network congestion, what it really is, and how CSPs can effectively manage it with innovative solutions that preserve subscriber quality of experience and help defer costly network expansion. We'll also take a look at our recent industry survey of 100 top-tier mobile network operators to see what your colleagues think about the subject as the industry moves to 5G. In this podcast, we'll give a taste of what you can expect to learn at the webinar.
I'm here today with Moti Goldstein, Allot Smart AVP of Product Management, and we'll be talking about network congestion and what CSPs can do about it to manage the traffic in their networks. Although, Moti, when I hear traffic congestion, I think like most people, I think about my commute to and from work and the fact that there are just too many cars on the highway. How does that apply to the world of CSPs?
Well, Michael, that is a good analogy, actually, using the word traffic, double meaning as it is. And that is correct because CSPs are building networks, and those networks are being used by the end users, creating traffic. And at a certain point, the amount of traffic is more than the capacity of the network that was built, and congestion is being created. This can either be something temporarily for a few seconds or milliseconds, and it can be sometimes for a long periods of time, like those rush hour at the commute hour traffic, but also in the networks when you have like peak hours where everybody are watching Netflix and sitting and browsing and so on and so forth. So yeah, it has to do with both. And managing the congestion is one of the key values that we provide, and it's a very interesting discussion to do.
So I guess the motor traffic analogy is useful up to a point, but can you explain a little bit more about what congestion really is in the network of the CSP?
Of course, yeah. When we talk about, sometimes we hear the words congestion and we hear oversubscription. Basically, those are similar but different in that sense that in many cases, the way that networks are being built, they are inherently oversubscribed, right? I'm getting fiber to the home, you're getting, my apartment next door are getting, but my entire building is also getting 1 gig for the entire building because they rely on the statistical nature of traffic. Even when we are watching video and in our head we think about, it's a constant stream of bits. No, it's not. There are variable bitrate codecs and adaptive bitrates, and the traffic itself may be bursty, and I start to browse a page, so you get traffic coming in, and then you read it, so it slows down. So everything is moving in and out, and when you look into those statistics, you can say that we can share the access, we can share the media, we can share those traffic tubes or the traffic lane, if you want to think about it like cars filling up the road. But at a certain point, the demand is more than the capacity. Then congestion happens. This could be, as I said previously, a temporary event, just now, and not just by shaping the traffic in a sense that will give some gaps, it could be enough. And if it's prolonged for a long period of time, then you need to do something about it.
Okay, so Moti, if we continue with this driving analogy, when I'm driving and it's rush hour and there's a traffic jam, I'm frustrated, I get annoyed, I'm sitting in traffic, maybe I'm honking if I'm an annoying driver, but definitely it's taking me longer to get where I want to go, and I'm not happy with the experience. What happens in a network situation?
It's very much alike in the sense that in modern network, you are not only talking about the specific APIs, we're still using them, but now we're talking more about the perceived quality of experience and not only quality of service. Because it has to do with how you as a user is perceiving this congestion, perceiving the experience you are receiving. And now if you think about yourself, or when I think about my daughters, it's like they don't really care what's the length of the buffer when they are watching YouTube. But they do care a lot if they are pressing the video and it takes more than 2 seconds to start. So the time to play, it's a key factor for my experience, or in that sense, for their experience. I can wait for 3 seconds, maybe 4, okay? So when you talk about managing congestion, you always have to keep in mind the quality of experience and how to manage that in a good way. And here comes a lot of tools, and we see a lot of CSPs thinking about that, want to improve that so their customers will be happier and stay with them for longer times.
So if we continue again with this driving analogy.
Yeah, I like this analogy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of road work that takes place. They add lanes, or maybe they allocate certain lanes to certain kinds of traffic, like carpool lanes or mass transit lanes. And those are kind of fixed solutions. But if there's a traffic jam because there are too many regular cars, those extra lanes don't really help. How does that kind of approach, or does that kind of approach apply to service providers as well?
Yeah, so if we continue with that analogy, you can say that the same applies, and there are many strategies. Now, the first one, it's like, and you have to do it in some cases, is simply to add capacity. When CSPs are moving from 4G to 5G, they add capacity because it's more efficient. You can have more bit per hertz and go to higher speeds in those lanes. If you had more fiber cables and optic cables in the ground, you had more capacity, and so on and so forth. And this is like, let's say, maybe a brute force solution. It can help, but it is costly and it takes a lot of time. Having said that, there are many other strategies that you can apply in the network, and the network evolves.
So you mentioned the adding capacity as a slower solution, long-term, perhaps brute force. But like you said, it doesn't apply to what's happening today. There's a network, it's got a certain capacity, and traffic is growing, and they're not ready to roll out additional capacity. It's expensive, it's time-consuming. What can they do in an almost real-time dynamic way to deal with problems that come up unexpectedly that they haven't yet planned for?
Well, there are multiple solutions you can apply, let's say multiple strategies, and we can kind of scale them up in regards to the granularity of the interval they applied for, okay? You may start with, let's say, the classic approach in which you define a policy. For example, I'm saying that in my network, YouTube and Netflix and Amazon Prime, or let's say streaming services, has higher priority than peer-to-peer. I define that, and I have the DPI services in my network allocate regarding to this priority I define. It's something you do, you apply to the network, and it is there, let's say, forever until you change it. So this is on one scale. It's a very effective, very easy to manage and straightforward approach. And there are many others which I can elaborate later, but all the way to having able to define and to perform action on an event by event basis. So you can scale the solution on this scale on regards to the granularity of time they apply to. And you can actually mix some of them in the same network, depending where is your problem.
Okay, thank you, Moti. This has been very informative, and we will have the opportunity to explain this in more detail at the webinar on November 23rd, where we will also present highlights from our QoE industry survey and share some exciting product innovations that help manage congestion in new and exciting ways. Webinar participants will also receive the full survey report. So thank you again, Moti, and I look forward to co-hosting the upcoming webinar, which you can all register for on the Allot.com website. See you all on November 23rd.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more information about network intelligence and security solutions for service providers and enterprises on our website at Allot.com. Subscribe to this podcast to make sure you hear about new trends and technologies on the next episode of Allot on Air.